Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dan Bates. I'm President and CEO of the Greater Hamilton Chamber of Commerce, and we are thrilled to have you with us here today. If you would all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, we can get started. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Continue enjoying your lunch. Well, I would like to thank our event sponsors for today. Our event sponsors are First Financial Bank and Fort Hamilton Hospital. Thank you. We have an exciting speaker for you today, someone that I had the pleasure of meeting about a year and a half or so ago. And I was surprised when I saw he was going to be our speaker. I'm like, I know that person, so this is pretty cool. So with over 21 years of experience, David Veely has helped enact change and improve processes across a variety of industries. His unparalleled ability to coordinate the right individuals with the right tasks has empowered leadership teams and helped companies streamline their operations. His people, process, metrics approach helps businesses better manage their most valuable asset while developing the best in human potential. He brings a similar dedication outside the workplace to his position on Lee University's Business Advisory Council and his role on the Finance Committee for the Dan Beard Boy Scout Council. Please welcome David Veely.
Thank you, Dan. It is an honor to be here, and thank you for that introduction. Let me first of all thank you for giving us what is your most valuable asset, and that is your time today. Thank you for investing in the community, investing in this region. Also, thank you for being a part of honoring some very important folks today. So I want to say thank you for allowing me to be here. Also, to our honorees, I have read your profiles. I've done a little bit of research. And I am very impressed with the two people that you have chosen today to honor for their not only business accomplishments, but also the regional impacts to this community. Such an incredible opportunity, and I want to extend my appreciation out to what you are doing. Also, finally, for what this region represents, as somebody who lives in Cincinnati, I've been able to do business in this area and also witness some of the transformation you've been through in the last 5 or 6 years. You have some great, incredible things going here. I know the Chamber is heavily involved, but it really takes a community of people like yourself. So I want to give you a hand clap for the work that you're doing here in your own region, okay? So I tell people when I speak, I am the son of a Southern minister, so if you will help me this morning and give me an every once in a while, that lets me know where I stand. So let's practice, Come on, you can do a little bit better, All right, do a good job, and we'll take an offering too. But I'm going to rely on you for this. As I looked at the profiles of the two honorees today, I saw 3 characteristics that jumped out at me, and I wanted to highlight those in about a 15 to 20 minute section, just to highlight the successes that these gentlemen have brought, and also I think there are also lessons learned for us as we're leading our businesses, or we're leading our institutions, or leading our nonprofits, the teams that we serve. Number one is a competitive or a competition among the team. And what I mean by this is recognizing your need to build a team to respond to what's out there in front of you. Not competitive against each other, but competitive to really understand what's happening out there. And a few things to highlight this is, as our customers' needs are changing, or the people that we represent on a nonprofit sector, as the needs of those folks are changing, building a team that recognizes that shift and is also able to respond to that. This region is a great example of this. You're not the same region that you were 6 years ago. You are an accelerated group of people, accelerated growth, and you're responding to that. As we look at that, I would also say, in our ability to look at these competitive changes, how do you respond and drive to that? I think you have a great example here on the screen, and I am a Tesla driver, so I'm a little bit biased here. But look at what's happening inside of the automotive sector today. The big three or the big two plus the foreign competition is all trying to play catch up right now to what Tesla is doing. Tesla said, hey, we want to reinvent, we want to play around with technology, we want to do something that's different. The automotive sector's kind of said, hey, I'm not really interested in that, it won't fit, it won't work. As Tesla grew some ground in what they're trying to accomplish, there were some efforts to kind of squash Tesla, and then could Tesla actually pull this off? Today, the big three are responding to what Tesla has done in a disruptive nature. Think about that in terms of your team. How well are your teams able to perceive and see what's happening in the marketplace and changing to that? Tesla itself has now institutionalized it. They're looking at what's next. Now Ford, Chrysler, Toyota, all of them, including Porsche, are racing to the market to figure out how do they compel people back to their brand based on developing a solution around the Tesla. How does your team respond to the competitive nature that's out there in front? Another way of looking at this is one of the big buzz items out in a business or an industry today is what is going to happen with our economy. If you remember in 2016, the economists were predicting that 18 would be a disaster. It would be our second banking fall. 18 has come and gone. It hasn't happened. They're now projecting that 2020, 2021 will have a blip in our economy, maybe closer tied to the election. But ultimately, the economists are looking at it saying, hey, something's going to happen. What I want to highlight here is as you have a competitive team, they're able to respond to that. No one of us can change what's going to happen in the economy. I am a believer in researching. I'm a believer of looking in the crystal ball. I am a believer of listening to our economists and really making strategic decisions. But ultimately, no one of us can change what happens in the marketplace. The only thing that we can change is how we respond to that. Whether we're in a bear market or a bull market, what happens there is building a competitive team around you that's able to respond to those needs and respond to those issues so that they, as your organization, can build itself. I'm an analogy person, so I'll give it to you this way. As we go to the parking lot today, if it's raining outside, many of us will look at it and say, hey, we're prepared. We brought an umbrella, and we're going to pop an umbrella up, and we're going to walk to the car. Some of us will say, shoot, I forgot my umbrella, and we're going to run to the car, or if you're wearing glasses like me, you'll do this, and you'll kind of duck, just so that you decrease the amount of wetness that you experience when you get in the car. Some of us are going to be cool people, and we're going to walk to the car and act like it's not raining. The reality of it is we can't change whether or not it rains. We can change how we respond, and how we respond to that is ultimately what we're trying to get to when we're talking about a competitive team. No one of us can change, unless you're in D.C. and you have power, can change whether or not we go into an economic bear market, bull market, but we can change. We can change how we respond to that. And I want to give you that in terms of a competitive team has the ability to be able to respond and build to that. And that's one of the things that I saw inside of looking at the honorees. Ultimately, looking at what stresses you in your business or in your organization, and what are you delaying on in making a decision around those. And then also, number two, take a look at the makeup of that team. In terms of, number one, do I have a competitive team? Number two, what is the makeup of that team? And we like to say it this way, do I have the smarts and do I have the health? Health is another way of saying culture. Do I have the smarts on the team? But more importantly, do I have the health on the team? If we scored this on a 1 to 10, I may have the best and the brightest and be able to go out and recruit the smartest. And let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, I rate the smart as a 9. But if I don't have a healthy organization or a strong dynamic culture, and I rate that as a 1 to 10, and it's a 2, then I multiply that and say, okay, I'm at an 18. Give me the team that may not be the smartest, but yet have the healthiest environment, the strongest culture, and it's a 6 and a 6 multiplied to 36, I'll win with that team every time. Building that culture, building that team, that recruiting magnet around you. Again, looking at this, say, do I have a competitive team? Number two, do I have a strong team, a vibrant team that's able to respond to what's going on? I like to do it this way. I'm a sports enthusiast, many of us in the room. To me, this is the best time of the year with football starting up. High school has already started. In our region, it starts Friday night. Some regions it's already started. College football was on last Saturday. We're 2 or 3 weeks away from pro football. It doesn't get any better than this. But as we're looking at our favorite teams, if your team was a sports team, what advice would you give? If you're the Bengals, what advice would you give to the Bengals? And put a couple of us sports enthusiasts together, we have all the solutions. We know exactly what the Bengals need to go off and do. Now, I'll tell you, I'm a Steelers fan like Dan, so don't hold that against me. But, that's a good time to say, uh-huh. But we have our share of problems, and I am predicting that Cleveland wins the title this year. All right, now I got some of you. But put us in a room. We have tons of advice for what the Bengals should do this year. Put us in a room, we'll talk about the good and the bad, and we'll have tons of advice for the Patriots. What advice would you have for your team? If you were not the coach, you were not the leader of your team, and they were assigned a brand like the Bengals or the Patriots, what advice would you have? Oftentimes I find we have a lot of advice for these folks, but we don't always apply that advice inside of our own team. Maybe you got some player changes. Maybe you got some coaching development. Maybe it's a strategy. Maybe it's a layout of what is competitive and what is not competitive. But taking the opportunity to make the changes and decisions. And when I look at the honorees, and when not only do I see that they've built a competitive team to respond to the market, they also build a team that's strong, that's vibrant, and has a very strong culture to go after. And y'all are missing a good time to say, uh-huh. Okay? Love to talk about engagement as well. Oftentimes, as we're talking about engagement of a team, we'll also use references like A, B, and C talent. I like to use it in terms of engagement. Who are those people on a team that they are just yippee, skippy, and happy all the time and could go make anything happy? I would score them a 10. Who are the people that believe in where the organization is headed and they're kind of excited about it and they show up every day and they do a good job? They're a 5. And then the disengages over on this side, they're the 1. And you know who those are, and you know that what faces are coming to name now. Faces are coming to your mind. But those people that are disengaged and don't care, they're aggravated, you give them $10, they're upset it wasn't 2 5s. You know who I'm talking about, right? Do we address those? Where do we spend a majority of our time? We spend it right here. We don't spend it over here with those that are engaged and just looking for what's next. We don't spend all of that time with the folks that are in the middle that really make up the mass. We spend a large portion of time over here. I'm an example and an analogy guy. My wife and I, before we moved, we had this house that on the other corner of us was this gentleman named Roger. And Roger was grouchy, and he was retired, and he was never happy. And he would come over while I was playing with the kids and interrupt and talk about stuff. And my wife and I had a deal that if she saw me talking to Roger, she'd run out with my phone and say, "Hey, babe, you got a phone call?" And I would do the same with her. But Roger was always grouchy, always aggravated, always the dude who was talking about what's happening in the neighborhood, who cut their grass, who didn't cut their grass. I would vote the same way as Roger, but he aggravated me when he talked about politics. But across the street, I had one of these neighbors, semi-retired, always happy, always engaging. Every time you see them, they're waving at you. Every time they see the kids, they're playing with the kids. And they were engaging, they were fun, they were happy, and they were spending time. But one of the things that I started noticing is that holidays and Father's Days and big weekend days, these folks' neighborhood or their driveway was full of cars. In fact, we had a deal that when your driveway filled up and the street filled up, feel free to park over here in our driveway. Now, we were actually looking for an invite, and occasionally we got one that way. But Roger on this side never had a full driveway. Roger never was engaged, and Roger's own kids wouldn't come home anymore to visit him. Both retired, both engaged, and it taught me a lesson around who do I surround myself with in the workplace, Who do I surround myself with in the team environment? And I know I have some people who say, hey, yeah, but Roger's going through stuff. Yeah, he is, and he needed some help with that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if we don't address and spend more time on this side of that equation, ultimately these people leave and go look for somewhere else. Building that collaborative, that strong team, those people who can ultimately take our organization to where they need to get to. So competitive nature. Number 2, team. And third is legacy. And I love the focus that I saw in the honorees' write-ups and the definitions around what they have going. But ultimately, what is our legacy? We're going to build a team that's competitive. We're going to put a team around us that can respond, but also we're focused on our legacy. I like to say it this way: what's our tombstone? I hope when I die, and I hope that's a long time away, that they put father, son, husband, brother, friend, something like that, as opposed to CEO, business person, or accomplished this in somebody else's business place. Tombstone remembrance. Female ladies, maybe a mother, sister, daughter, wife. I want to be known for those tombstone moments. And in the focus of growing our businesses and growing our nonprofits and doing all the things that we have in the region, our number one legacy that we'll ever have is sitting at home. Thank you. But where it is our legacy and what is our reach, and making sure that we're spending time there. It is there where we're rounded out individuals and we're able to accomplish things. The second part of that legacy is what are we doing in the community? Whether you call it give back, lean in, reach out, share, where do you spend your legacy time in the community in developing? It might be in the one-to-ones with the next person, just trying to help them to the next level. It might be United Way, it might be the Chamber, wherever your give back is, making sure that we take the time to carve that out and do that give back time. It shouldn't be something that's just on an action item list as a part of who we are, right? But focusing on what is that legacy, not losing that at home, but also gaining that legacy in our community. And our honorees today have truly accomplished that. I've spent some time with Dan, and I've heard some of the personal stories about what these honorees are accomplishing, and it truly is reach back, give back into the community and making this region a better place to live and a better place to do business. And I congratulate you for that. So number one, being a competitive team. Number 2, building the team around us. And number 3, focusing on legacy. I'll end with this set of slides for those of you who look at where are you headed, what's next, what are the things that you need to accomplish. I run into 2 types of people. Those who say I'm too young to go do that, and those who say I'm too old. So I'm going to show you some highlights of some individuals, and I want to inspire you a bit. As you go back to your teams, your businesses, and your nonprofit sectors, the decisions that you need to make today or the decisions that you need to apply strategy to, I want to encourage you with this. Okay, Tiger Woods was 3 years old when he first hit a round of 9 holes of golf and shot less than 50. If you are a non-golfer in the room, let me explain that. If I do 50, that's pretty good. If I do 45, I've had a really good day. And if I shoot 40, a whole lot of friends and family are going to get a phone call that day. And they all know I cheated to get there anyhow. Tiger did it at the age of 3. Mozart wrote his first symphony at 8 years old. Charles Dickens at 12 years old quit school, went to work in a shoe polish factory because his dad was in prison for being in debt. Later on, went on to be a prolific writer, and one of his famous sayings that I love is the man who is capable of reading but does not read is no better off than the man who can't read. At the age of 13, Anne Frank. If you take one of these names and Google search them today, go Google search Anne Frank. At the age of 13, she began writing a diary of what was happening during the Holocaust. Later on, as we all know, she was killed in that exercise. But still today, her legacy lives on through museums, through Google searches, and all of the impacts that she's had on humanity at a young age of 13 is when she started. Paul McCartney at the age of 15 joined a band that we later called the Beatles. Bill Gates at 19 quit business school to start a software company. By 31, he was a billionaire. 20, for Plato, he started studying with Socrates. Joe DiMaggio, at an age of 26, hit 56 base hits consecutive games, so 56 games he had a base hit. Still stands today as a record, and he did that at 26. Some say Marilyn Monroe had something to do with that. Ralph Lauren was 29 when he started polo. William Shakespeare was 31 when he wrote Romeo and Juliet, and Thomas Jefferson was 38 years old when he helped pen the Declaration of Independence. So for those of you in the room that says, wow, I'm too young, I can't go do that, I want to inspire you here a little bit. You can have a huge legacy effect in your community, and you can have a huge effect inside of your business or your team as you go back and address and put the improvements in that you need to. For those who say I'm too old, Mother Teresa at the age of 40 moved to Calcutta to start her life's journey, and what we all know Mother Teresa for, she didn't begin that exercise until she was 40. Right before she passed, somebody come to her and said, Mother Teresa, I'm here to take over your work in Calcutta. She said, no, I've developed my next leader. You go find your own Calcutta. At the age of 40 is when she first discovered that. Jack Nicklaus was 46 for those golfers who won his last green jacket at Augusta. Henry Ford was 50 years old before he started his first assembly line. We know Henry as the guy who brought the automotive to the mid-market sector or the middle-class sector and began his assembly line. Up until 50, he had not accomplished what his greatest thing was in life. Ray Kroc, 52, sold milkshake machines, stumbled on a franchise in California of 3 restaurants called McDonald's. He said, I think I can do something with this, and he bought it, and he's been poisoning us ever since. Picasso was 55 when he painted Granada. Dom Perignon was 60 when he bottled his first bottle of champagne. Oscar Hammerstein was 64 when he wrote The Sound of Music. Winston Churchill, at 65, who had inherited billions, said, hey, I want to throw my name into the hat to be prime minister, and he later went on to pick a fight with Hitler. Now, if I'm him with billions, I got my toes in the sand somewhere, but he said at 65, I'm going to go create a legacy effect and do something different. Nelson Mandela was 71 when he released from jail in South Africa. 4 years later, he's their first Democratic elected president. 2 years later, he wins the Nobel Peace Prize. Michelangelo was 72 years old when he finally got engaged to the young lady that he met when he was 23. So ladies, if you're in that world, just give him a little bit of time. He'll get there. Ben Franklin, 79 years old when he created bifocals. These are cheaters, but one day I know I'll have those, so I'm glad he did his job out of necessity. And then finally, Dimitrian Yornadad, 98 years old when he ran his first marathon in Athens, Greece, did it in 32 hours. And they said, why now? He said, I'm not getting any younger. I figured this is the time. So for those of you who say, I'm too old, I'm too stuck, never too old to have an impact. An impact on your team, an impact on your business, your organization, and definitely an impact in your legacy. And I want to encourage you with that today. Can you give me another good uh-huh? Give the honorees an uh-huh. And I applaud you for what you're doing here. Thank you for letting me speak.
I'm pumped. So, next on the agenda, we get to our awards. The Hamilton Heritage Award for Outstanding Community Involvement. This is the 18th year for the award, and the recipient for this year, as normal, is chosen by previous recipients of the award. Recipients of the Heritage Award exhibit a history of volunteering outside their job. They go above and beyond in their volunteer efforts, and their work contributes to the betterment of our community. Today's recipient is the epitome of this award and joins an amazing list of past recipients. I would like to recognize the past recipients that are in our audience today. Please hold your applause until they have all stood. Joe Ballou, Mike Dingledine, Mary Pat Essman, Dave Lippert, Kathy Klink, Tim Nabb, Cindy Dingledine, and Cinnamon Troken. Thank you for joining us today. Cinnamon Troken was our honoree last year, and she will be introducing the recipient for this year.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks very much. much. Could have used a little applause to bring me up here. So before I share with you how Sean Higgins would introduce himself, let me tell just a very quick story. Some of you may know that I teach a cycling class at the Great Miami Valley YMCA a couple mornings a week at 6 a.m. Some people think that's a little crazy, a 6 a.m. exercise class. Sean was recently hired as the executive director, and he decided in his first week, I think, of employment that he was going to attend all of the group exercise classes at the Y. So Monday, he took a bunch of classes, Tuesday, a bunch of classes, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday morning, he showed up at 6 a.m. to take the cycling class. And he had probably 4 or 5 other classes he was going to take that day. And I think that's just a great example of the kind of person, the kind of leader that Sean is. Sean Higgins is originally from the Pittsburgh area. He studied communications at Ohio University, where he met his future wife, Lori. Later in life, he received a BA in organizational leadership from NKU. Sean moved to Hamilton in 1986, where he and Lori raised their 4 children, Patrick, Michael Ann, Sydney, and Ryan. Working in local radio, Sean started his community involvement. He continued in radio to Cincinnati and Dayton, working his way up through various stations and formats. He has been on-air talent, production director, program director, and a salesperson in radio. In 2001, Sean was hired as the assistant director at Pyramid Hill Sculpture Park and Museum. He then moved on to small business coaching and then nonprofit training at Community Developed Professionals in Hamilton. Sean returned to Pyramid Hill in 2014 as interim, then co-director. In October of 2018, Sean was hired as the executive director of the Fit and Family branch of the YMCA in Hamilton. Through the years, Sean has also worked in television commercials, industrial films, student film, and training videos for many local, regional, and national companies. And he was in a George Clooney movie. Sean's current and past volunteer work includes the Butler County Visitors Bureau Board, Hamilton Visitors Bureau, acting chair, Hamilton Rotary Club, board member and various event committees, Hamilton Celebrates Education Committee, Hamilton Welcomes the Holidays, Hamilton Vision Commission, Healthy Hamilton, Hamilton City Schools Business Advisory Council, lector and Eucharistic minister at St. Peter's and Chains, Film Hamilton, and the Ohio Chautauqua Committee. Sean has produced and hosted the What's Your Story interview series at Miami Downtown and has provided on-camera and voice-over work for TV Hamilton. Sean's event work includes Serve City Annual Fundraiser, Ice Fest, Lane Library 150th Anniversary, Operation Pumpkin, Miami Regional's Nursing Banquets, Hamilton Night Glow Marathon, Butler Philharmonic, and even some old events like Dam Fest, Fort Hamilton Days, and the Great Miami River Raft Race. Sean has also coached at Westside Little League and Golden Triangle Youth Hockey. On top of all of this, Sean promotes Hamilton on the pedicab as a bigwig ambassador. Please join me in congratulating our 2019 Hamilton Heritage Award recipient, Sean Higgins.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Cinnamon. Actually, you kind of took part of what I was going to start with, that Cinnamon, on top of everything she does, teaches this 6 a.m. class twice a week. And yes, I've done it once. So I challenge you to come try that and for me to get back a second time. So thank you. But I want to thank the past recipients, the committee, as was pointed out. These are the folks that vote for the recipients. So I'm honored and humbled when I look at the names of these recipients. So I thank you very much for for that honor. Thank you to Dan Bates and the Chamber for your supports, and for all the wonderful folks at the Chamber for what you do for the community. Dan, I want to, if I could, the great quotes you put in the paper. We were talking about what's on your tombstone. I think I have my epitaph now. Thank you, Dan. You're my official press secretary and epitaph writer. But back from the morbid here. I strongly believe in service. I think it is a blessing to serve, and I've been blessed to serve. And so many people in this room are on all these committees we talk about in my list, not only my list, but other people's lists. There's so many people in this room that are serving. I consider myself kind of a worker bee, and there are a lot of worker bees in this community, and that's really what's really making things happen and spurring things forward, and it's very exciting to be a part of what's going on. So I believe in the service aspect. I'm very excited and proud to be working in an organization that serves the community, the YMCA. Very proud to be part of Hamilton Rotary, which serves the community. This is very much what I believe in. And as Dan wrote, talking about promoting, there's a lot of things to promote right now. And again, I feel humbled because there's so many people in this room who serve, but not only promote. Steve Caldwell is always promoting Hamilton, constantly, every event, every place, and constantly moving forward and finding things to talk about in Hamilton. You want to talk about a promoter, Ian McKenzie Thoroughly, world-class promoter. And by the way, made a trip to my hometown this past weekend and actually brought me back a couple souvenirs that come in about a 12-ounce can. Thank you, Ian. There's so many people that are doing things, that are serving, that are promoting, and it is a privilege to be a part of what's going on in Hamilton, to be able to help, to be able to serve, and to be a part of what's going on in Hamilton. So I thank everybody for the contributions as well, with the Chamber, with the city. So many folks from the city, yes, it's their job, but they do it so passionately to serve and promote this city. So it's just exciting what's going on. One more, I want to thank, I thank my wife, Lori, because every time I come up and say, you know, I got this thing I'm going to do tonight. I got this weekend, I'm going to go do this thing this weekend. She just nods her head and says, I know. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Obviously very deserving of that award. Our next recipient today, Small Business Person of the Year. In selecting the Small Business Person of the Year, the committee looks for a person who has independently owned and operated a business. The business should be financially strong and have a history of growth, as well as having demonstrated management or product innovation and successful solutions to business problems. The recipient is also involved in the community and has a reputation for personal integrity and fair business practices. Our Small Business Person honoree this year not only meets the criteria, but is an outstanding example of intelligence, integrity, and impact. I would like to recognize the past recipients of this award that are in the room today. Would you please stand, but hold your applause until they are all standing. Bill Wilkes, Neil Cohen, Ron Smith, Frank Fearman, Dave Lippert, Ed Larkin, Sarah Vallandingham, and Kim McGawkey. Thank you for joining us. Last year's recipient, Kim McGawkey, will be introducing this year's recipient. Kim?
Hi, I'm Kim McCahey, the owner of the Maine Look. I've known John and Kim most of my adult life, so I'm honored to introduce you to John's biography. John Kirsch is a Hamilton native who received his bachelor's and master's degree in accounting from Miami University. He has the distinction of receiving the highest score in the state of Ohio and the highest score in the country on the CPA examination. Quite impressive. In 1991, John founded Kirsch CPA Group. The company has grown from a one-person firm to an organization with 3 partners and a team of 37 talented individuals who have the passion for helping small and medium enterprise, both for profit and nonprofit, achieve success. Under John's leadership, the firm has been recognized for 13 consecutive years as one of the largest CPA firms in the Cincinnati, Dayton, and metro area. The firm was recognized by the national industry-leading publication Inside Public Accounting as one of the 10 best managed CPA firms in the nation in 2014, 2015, 2017, and 18, and was just notified that it received this honor again in 2019. It was also recognized in 2015 and 17 as one of the best places to work in Cincinnati, and in 2016, 2017, and 2018 as one of the best places to work in Ohio. Again, very impressive. The Kirsch CPA Group has 2 locations, one in Hamilton and one in Oxford. A little over a year ago, the firm moved to its headquarters. They moved their headquarters from Fairfield to the 4th and 5th floor of the Kirsch Building in downtown Hamilton to accommodate the growth it has had and continues to experience. The firm has had great success under John's leadership because he has created a culture that focuses on team and clients while promoting a work-life balance. For the clients, this means that every day the firm strives to provide world-class service by listening to their needs and partnering with them to productively find creative and innovative ways to solve challenging problems or take advantage of promising opportunities. The firm's team culture promotes a mutual commitment to high achievement, to embrace change and innovation, to challenge the status quo, to commit to constant improvement and learning, and to be positive. A major component of the firm's culture, molded under John's leadership, is work-life balance. That has come to mean the following: gratitude, be thankful for what we have and the success we have achieved together. Give back to our families and our communities, have fun, and enjoy the journey. Every day, John comes to the office ready to have fun and enjoy the journey. He is driven by optimism and passion to help the firm's clients and team, but it does not stop there. A big part of the firm's culture is giving back to the community. Throughout his career, John has demonstrated his dedication to serving the community. He's been involved in and worked with many non-for-profit organizations, including charitable foundations, educational institutions, healthcare facilities, social service organizations, economic development organizations. John currently is serving on the boards of Baden High School, the Hamilton Community Foundation, Community First Solutions, Access Business Finance, Hamilton Community Authority, and the Liberty Community Authority. John also supports nonprofit community by encouraging the Kirsch team to get involved in a wide variety of capacities for many different organizations. He encourages the firm's fund committee to organize team volunteer activities, some of which have included wrapping Christmas presents for residents of local children's homes and hosting a Christmas party for children who attend the local community center. John and his wife, Kim, have 4 adult children, including 2 with a doctor of physical therapy, an aerospace engineer, and recently announced a PhD candidate. Very bright children. Off the clock, John is on the go with Kim visiting those 4 children, or he can be found backpacking on the trails through the eastern U.S. and enjoying his time with friends. It is my pleasure to announce our 2019 Small Business Person of the Year, our friend John Kirsch.
As Kim mentioned, We've known each other for quite some time, so it's quite fitting that I had the honor of her introducing me. I have to tell you, that is not the bio I sent over. All right. Jason Crank, did I see Jason here? Oh. Jason and Dan, I just want you guys to know that there's a lot of people out there in the audience right now that are rethinking what you were thinking of letting me up here on the podium speaking for a few minutes without a couple of proctors on my side. So how about our speaker, David? What a great message. Thank you, David. It's a little scary how your comments are going to mesh up with mine. So, and how about Sean Higgins? Sean, volunteer extraordinaire. Our kids went to school together, and if you look real closely, you might just see Sean on TV every once in a while. But what a great volunteer and contributor to the community. When Dan stopped by our office, I also have to say my apologies. Sean's a professional. I'm a mere amateur up here, so I'll do my best. When Dan stopped in our office to let me know about this award, I have to tell you I was literally speechless and astonished. And you can talk to my family and my team, and you'll find that that is a rare event when I'm speechless. Special thanks to my partner, Pete Abner, Pete and the group that he put together to put my nomination in the hat, and they know who they are. I'm absolutely humbled that you think I would be worthy for this award. I use a saying around our office. Kim made mention of trying to have some fun. We have a saying that we use, which is, we take what we do extremely seriously. What we try not to take too seriously is ourselves. So that's going to be the spirit of my comments here today. In the spirit of taking seriously what we do, again, I'm truly humbled. As Sean mentioned, the group of people who are the previous honorees is just simply amazing. In my experience, people who achieve even some moderate degree of success have an unbelievable support system behind them, and that is certainly the case with me. I've got, as Kim mentioned, some incredible friends from all walks of life, all status, races, ages. Some of those friendships go back more than 50 years, and I'm absolutely blessed to have that. We keep each other grounded. I've had a great family. My parents, my mother passed away 20 years ago, but she still impacts my life every single day. Taught me how to have empathy for the underdog, how to be a good listener. Some might say that's still a work in progress, but we're on it, and to have high expectations for the talents we've been given. My father, who was with us here today, taught me about integrity, about being flexible, tenacity, and being true to your roots, and volunteering. That he was my role model for volunteering for the community. He also taught me that hard work was something more than 2 4-letter words, something to be said for that. He was a World War II veteran, and I'd like to pay tribute to everyone in the audience here who was also a veteran. Do we have any veterans here? Just raise your hand. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you for your service. My siblings, the impact that my parents had is reflective not on me, but also on them. All 4 of them are here, as well as my sister-in-law. They all made the time to be here, and for that I'm very appreciative. Thank you for being here. My children, I get asked quite often if any of them are involved with the business. You heard from Kim the professions that they pick. I guess you can read for yourself what they thought about the profession I chose. They all offered to be here. They're scattered throughout the country now. They all offered to be here. I told them to stay where they are, take care of business, and they could check the reruns on TV Hamilton. My spouse, all I can say is that I married way above my pay grade. I really wanted her to be here by my side as I made these comments. She doesn't really like being in the limelight very much. So if I did that, I'd probably end up sleeping on the front porch this morning or tonight. She spent 37 years in the education field, continues to do so now, a rock star in her own right, truly an anchor and unbending support in spite of some of my harebrained ideas and moves that I've made. Never once has she said, "I told you so," and I can assure you there were countless opportunities for her to do that. So Kim, thank you very much. To our team and coworkers, over the course of 41 years in the accounting profession, 28 years with Kerr CPA Group, I have had the honor of working with some of the brightest and coolest people around. Now, you may not think that accountants are cool. The problem is you don't know us well enough, so you need to come up and meet some of the team here, okay? Watching the team grow is absolutely the greatest joy I get in my professional career. Some of you may know of John Wooden, the NCAA basketball coach with UCLA, who has the record by far for the most number of national championships won. He has a quote that I have hanging outside my office, clear for everybody to see, and it goes like this. It says, "Whatever you do in life, surround yourself with smart people who will argue with you." And fortunately, our team has taken that to heart. Kim has too. I need a lot of people to keep me grounded. Special recognition to my partners, Pete and Chad Williams. As our organization continues to grow, they provide leadership and direction. Kim mentioned some of the attributes that we try to impose in our culture that David mentioned. Culture is everything. I've seen it in every organization I've worked with, and these guys really embrace those values. So if I could, if you would indulge me for just a minute, I'd like to have our whole team stand up. And could you recognize them, please? Stand up, guys. They're truly the heroes here. Also in the group, just unbelievable clients, referral partners, vendor partners, people who took time out of their day. What gives me the passion to be involved with small businesses and not-for-profits is just seeing the energy, the creative approaches to problem solving. It's just unbelievable. I'm blessed to have taken that path. The other professionals that we work with that constantly inspire and challenge us, and being involved with those types of people is incredibly energizing. I really appreciate all of you taking your time to be here. Finally, talking about the Hamilton community, our firm has done business in the community here ever since our founding in '91, and even I was involved prior to that. As our footprint stretches out beyond the tri-state through the Midwest, we are thrilled to call Hamilton our geographic home. The reception to Hamilton has been just overwhelmingly positive. I just can't describe how that has gone. And we're proud to use that as a bridge to introduce or reintroduce our clients and friends of the firm to the city. And when we bring people here, the response that we get most often is, wow. And yes, we have pretty neat office space thanks to our friends at CDA and the fine work they did there, but not just about our office, but about the city. While we could be viewed as newbies on the scene here, I want to recognize some of the organizations that have been long-term investors in the city. Organizations that had the ability to locate in many other places long ago, but they chose to put roots down here. Some companies that come to mind are our friends at Matandy, our friends at Kivac, at ODW. They had, again, opportunities to go elsewhere, but they're here. I think of nonprofit organizations such as the Community Foundation, Community First Solutions, the YMCA, and others that have been serving the community sometimes for more than 100 years. I saw Dave Lippert is here. The Lipperts, How about the Lipperts and Hamilton Castor? If my research is correct, they have been operating continuously in the city of Hamilton since 1907, 112 years. How about that? Nothing like kicking Castor, right? And there's just so many other individuals, institutions, organizations with pressing with efforts to truly build this into a world-class city. And yes, I said a world-class city. Be that economic development, neighborhood development, education, the arts, parks, caring for the less fortunate. And to all of you, just as Sean said, a huge salute for the work that you do. Finally, a couple of quick stories of lessons learned. I mentioned earlier about my father and remembering your roots. You know, my father grew up in East Hamilton and certainly without a silver spoon in his mouth. But rather than lamenting his humble beginnings, still today he speaks fondly of the sense of neighborhood and of family and friends and people helping each other. A true example of humility and being proud of your roots. I'm going to tell one little thing on him, though. We were sitting around one day, and Dad was telling us some stories about that, and he told about the story when the house he lived in first got indoor plumbing. And someone said, oh, the simple days, those were the good old days. And Dad looked him right in the eye and said, well, let's just call them the old days. Your remembering where you came from only goes so far. Lastly, I want to tell you about a client and a friend, turned into a friend, someone who was 40 years my senior. Dr. Jim Newbern, I met many, many years ago, and he had a list of accomplishments, the least of which were he led the team and worked side by side with Albert Sabin and Jonas Salk to develop the polio and measles vaccines, and he was a naval aviator in World War II as well. So just a regular guy, right? I was having lunch with Jim, as he often liked to do, and I was likely lamenting some forgettable crisis in my life at the time with a frown on my face. Jim was from southern Georgia, and in spite of spending a lot of time in Ohio, he still had a little slight southern drawl. He, unbelievably humble guy, he still thought of himself as the son of sharecrop farmers, not as a world-renowned scientist. So he politely listened to me as he sipped on his soup. He smiled and said to me in a gentle voice, John, slow down, have some fun, and enjoy the journey. It's just business. So taking back to the theme of taking what we do very seriously, but not taking ourselves very seriously and keeping things in perspective, I offer you that advice from my friend Dr. Jim. Slow down, have some fun, and enjoy the journey. After all, it's just business. Thank you for your attention, and thank you again for honoring me with this award. Thank you very much.
Two incredible people. Thank you, John, and thank you, Sean, for everything that you do. I also want to back up just a moment. Bob Robinson's name I forgot to read. So Bob Robinson was our 2007 recipient for Small Business Person of the Year. So congratulations to you too, Bob. In case you didn't notice, my glasses broke during lunch. So we'll try to make this continue here. So, special thanks to the Small Business Person of the Year Selection Committee, in addition to myself. That is Kim McCackey, Mayor Pat Moeller, Jason Crank, Terry Bucco, and Ron Smith. I also want to thank the Chamber Centennial Sustaining Sponsors, Barclays, Butler Tech, City of Hamilton, Community Design Alliance, First Financial Bank, Fort Hamilton Hospital, Mercy Health Fairfield Hospital, Star Tech, and U.S. Bank. Thank you. Once again, thanks to our event sponsors, First Financial Bank and Fort Hamilton Hospital, and also very special thanks to the Journal News, TV Hamilton, and Inside Out Studios for the beautiful awards today. Thank you, and thank you for joining us.